Hey guys, today we are going to be reviewing functional behavior assessment. I know we have a lot of new people, so I thought doing a functional behavior assessment training was necessary, and it's a good refresher for some of our veterans as well. And we are changing our behavior support plan, and make sure we need to schedule that with our new training for some new people to review that with them. And this is going to be a big part of it, functional behavior assessment. So functional behavior assessment, what are we doing? What are we doing? What's this all about? Go ahead.
Assessing behavior.
Yes, assessing behaviors. And what does that mean?
It's like we go into the field and then we see clients. We try to build rapport with them first and then see what issues they may have that may help them or their families or their guardians.
Yeah, so we're finding out what our VIP's all about. We're learning about their behaviors. And, how do we do this? How do we learn about their behaviors?
You observe.
You observe. That's a big part of it. Do you know the other word that we use for that? Blank observation? When we are direct, yeah, exactly right. We are directly observing, and that's a huge part of this functional behavior assessment part, this direct. And there's also another type of observation we do. Do you know?
Indirect.
Yeah, indirect. And what does that mean? Not direct. Yeah, right, exactly right. We're not direct. So we are doing what? We're asking others. Yeah, we're interviewing, we're asking, we're reading records, right? We're finding out kind of the history behind our VIP and learning about their behaviors. Now, a lot of times this makes sense for maladaptive behaviors, right? We want to find out, we get called into a case usually for maladaptive behaviors, but also we can use the same approach for skill acquisition behaviors. For instance, if I wanted to help someone become potty trained, I might want to collect data on, times they have bowel movements, times they may be having accidents. I would want to kind of find out and do an assessment and collect some data. So I have kind of a starting point. So I have a place to start and see where I need to start myself and where I could take things. And then when I have that good baseline collection, I know if I'm actually making progress or not. So we're going to get into these ideas in this training in the functional behavior assessment. And I appreciate your participation. I could tell you guys are paying very good attention by your answers. So let's go. Let's hit it. So types of assessment. There's indirect functional assessment, and this is what we talked about. We're going to be going out, we're going to be asking, we're going to be interviewing, we are going to be looking at the records, we are going to read their ISPs, we are going to find out information from other people, from other sources, not directly through our observations, but indirectly through some other means, and that's what indirect's all about. And this is a good starting place for our work. This is a good starting place because what does this allow us to do? Have a baseline, perhaps. We can ask kind of how often this behavior is happening. Yeah, we could definitely do that. What else does it do? It kind of gives me a lens. So when I go out and do my direct observations, I know what I'm looking for. Right? I already have some ideas about what I should be looking for and maybe a good time to go to do a direct observation. So indirect, and guys, I want to make sure you guys understand that this indirect observation is really unreliable. Super unreliable, right? When people tell me things, I'm going to record that and keep that in mind when I do my direct observation, but I need to realize it's very unreliable in nature, and I shouldn't run with it or make a behavior support plan based on indirect information. So many times staff might approach me or come up to me, or parents, family, whoever, and they're telling me about this behavior. They're telling me what's happening, right? And many times I have the urge to give them some advice about what they could do to help. But what problem am I running into if I do that?
You give them wrong advice.
Yeah.
Don't know the function.
Well, yeah, because they're giving me information that's really unreliable. So should I make a behavior support plan and give them information right away? Or should I continue with this functional behavior assessment process? Yes, I should continue with this process because that information is very unreliable. So we want to steer clear of making behavior support plans and giving intervention advice based on the indirect information. I'm just going to use it now when I go out to do my direct observation to make sure I hone in on what is important and what I should be focusing on. So the next step is the direct functional assessment. And what am I doing here? Observing. You didn't have to whisper. Observing, right? I'm going out, I'm seeing with my own eyes what's happening. I'm using that indirect information and I'm seeing what I could see, and I'm collecting data, right? Using my own eyes and my own recording ability, I'm collecting data about what's happening, and I'm also observing other things that might be happening. And you know, I was talking to someone yesterday, and it was Victor. I was like, who was that? And we were talking about how indirect's very unreliable, and I often think someone told me this. You know, if you ask our parents, what is Mike into? What is Mike like, right? Would my parents really know 100% accuracy everything I like? Or are they going to embarrass me and bring up things that I don't like anymore, maybe? Or bring up things that are totally that I don't like? So just an example of how unreliable indirect information could be. So we always want to do the direct. And of course, there's the final piece, the functional analysis. So the functional analysis is a controlled experiment that we would do, and you know, we don't do this in our operation here, but functional analyses are very common, and this kind of helps prove the hypothesis statement of why behaviors are occurring. And they put the VIP in a controlled environment, and they put different stimulus in place to help determine the function of the behavior. For instance, for an escape maintain behavior, they will put demands on that VIP. And then when the VIP engages in the target behavior, they will remove the demand, effectively reinforcing that behavior. And they're looking to see if that will repeat and if the behavior shuts off right away. And through this process, they can actually prove the function of behavior, which is really interesting. But we don't do that. We take it to the direct functional assessment, and then we go from there. Let's continue. So why FBA? Why do we do an FBA? We kind of talked a lot about this already. Why are we doing an FBA? Why don't we just jump right into it? Well, we need to determine the function of behavior. And just because people are having similar behaviors to one another, they could be occurring for vastly different reasons. So we have to go in and uncover why someone is engaging in the behavior. It's very important. And why do we need to know the function of behavior? Why is that important?
Because then we know how to what kind of.
Go ahead, one at a time. Go ahead. Brandon, you go first.
No, I was going to say, you want to know the function so you know what kind of interventions you need to use.
Okay, yeah. And what were you going to say, Andy?
I was just going to say, when you're working on, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but like when you're working on strategies, you know how to like supersede that function, so like you can sell them that replacement better, you know?
Yeah, so it's big about this replacement idea, right? Where we're going to teach a replacement or an alternative to the problem behavior to help replace it, right? To help replace that behavior. So no longer is that challenging behavior meaningful, because now they have a new tool in their toolbox to be able to access the same function. Interventions based on FBA may be more effective than those selected without considering behavioral function. And you know, I copied this from the literature, but it says maybe, but I think definitely, right? Definitely more effective. Because can you imagine if you were working on an escape maintain behavior and you put tangible interventions in place, like is that going to probably work? Probably not. You're probably going to run into problems. So make sure we're doing FBAs. It's an ongoing process. Many times people come in, we get a new VIP and they start strong with the FBA. It's really a big part of our initial care when working with the VIP. But this is an ongoing process. It's never over. We're constantly evaluating, we're constantly learning more, and we're constantly making changes to the interventions based on this FBA process. Another important part is we're gathering baseline information. I think Andy or someone mentioned this in the very beginning, that we're getting baseline information regarding how behaviors are happening now. Why is it so important to know this baseline information? What's happening right now? Go ahead.
Because you can see your growth or not.
Yeah, we could see if our interventions are being effective, are making moves, right? Are actually making improvement. Without having baseline data, we put interventions in place. We're not sure if things are improving or not because we don't have good baseline collection. So gathering that baseline information is very important for our treatment. And it's kind of how we justify our work. And this is important for us guys. You know, we're really into telling you guys, collect data, make your learning trees, make sure you are recording data out in the field. Well, this is why, because we want to make sure that what we're doing is working. And not only that, when supports coordination, family members ask to see the graphs, we want to show them all the hard work you're doing. Without the graphs, it's impossible for us to prove what we're doing is working. So why would they pay us for services? So make sure that data collection is a huge part of your sessions. It has to be. And people are going to ask for it. And of course, we're going to consider the antecedents, the behaviors, and consequences. And you know, if you would like to learn more about these ideas, please refer to my YouTube channel. We have a training about antecedents and also consequences in differential reinforcement training. And the one thing I didn't hit upon was when we were talking about the function of behavior concern, we mentioned replacement behaviors or alternative behaviors. If you'd like to learn more about that, check out differential reinforcement of alternative behaviors. And that's kind of our gold standard for our treatment, that we're trying to find a replacement behavior to match the function of the problem behavior, right? That's kind of our golden goose of our behavior support plan that we are really put foremost when we're writing behavior support plans. All right, please continue. Okay, Thomas. You guys love this one. You guys know who this is? You guys know who this is? You don't know who it is? Make a guess. Thomas Jefferson. That's right, it's Thomas Jefferson.
You know it. I think Andy's the one who answers every single time.
That's why I waited for Andy. I was like, I'm waiting for Andy. So Thomas biting, we get called into a case. It's Thomas Jefferson, but we can't disclose that because of HIPAA laws. So Thomas is biting with his wooden teeth. I always make that joke, and it wasn't him with the wooden teeth.
You have the wrong person up there.
Yeah, you're right. I need to change it to George.
Yeah.
So what if Thomas is engaging? Okay, how would our interventions be different if he was biting to escape demands compared to if he was biting to engage and to access items? What might we do differently? And you don't have to get into specific strategies, but what would our plan look like in a nutshell?
Maybe you can give him choices as to when he wants to do whatever demand you're placing, or maybe you can make the chore, whatever it is you want to do, a little bit more fun.
For escaping demands?
Yes.
Yeah, good idea. I like that. You did get specific, and I like that. Yeah, we're going to give, so our interventions for Thomas are going to be giving choices, right? We're going to be making the demands less aversive by making them more fun, right? And giving choices, and that could be our behavior support plan for escaping demands. What about to get items, to obtain items? What might we do here?
Show them an easier way to how to do it, like verbally or in an iPad or something like that.
Yeah,
Ask for it.
Yeah, we could teach them to ask for an item. That would be cool. That would be cool in this case. I was thinking like the token economies too, right? That might lead to them getting tangibles that they desire. I also think just giving time-based schedules, right? Time-based tangibles would be cool here too. A lot of different ideas, different ways we could take this depending on the VIP, you know, depending on Thomas's preference. So very cool, guys. So you see how our behavior support plan changes very drastically depending on the function of the behavior, right? Why behavior is happening. We're going to take this in different routes. The laws of behavior are almost as certain as the laws of gravity. I thought that was cool. I'm into space and stuff, so I thought that was cool. I don't know if you guys do. The ABCs of behavior. Okay, the antecedent of behavior and consequences. All right, let's go. See you later, Thomas. Okay, the steps. These are the steps of the FBA process, and we talked about this a little bit already. Gather information with indirect and direct assessments. Right? So we're gathering this information. We're learning about our VIP. We're uncovering the function of behavior. Interpret information from the indirect and direct observations, obviously. Right? We're going to learn. We're going to interpret it. We're going to see what's happening. We're going to create a hypothesis statement. And the hypothesis statement is just saying why behaviors are happening, the function of behaviors. So you might read in a behavior support plan here, socially mediated positive reinforcement. And what do we mean by that? Go ahead.
It's through somebody else.
Well, socially mediated, that it's the item's being delivered through someone else. And what do we mean by positive reinforcement? Something's added to the environment that causes what? What does that mean?
They're likely to do that behavior, the positive behavior.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, they're likely to engage in that behavior again. And that's what reinforcement's all about. Many times I talk to new people in the field and they give me all kind of examples for what reinforcement means, right? But what do we really mean is that this behavior is likely to occur again. Great answers, guys. Good job. And then we're going to develop interventions based on the function of the problem behaviors. And also the skill acquisition behaviors perhaps too, that we would develop interventions based on what we learned during this functional behavior assessment. And guys, basically anytime I'm approached by anyone about a behavior that they want me to work on, I want to make sure that this process is being used. That we are using the FBA process to be able to come up with the best behavior support plan for our VIP. Any questions about the steps of the functional behavior assessment process? All right. So we're going to get into it a little bit. Indirect assessments, and we talked about this already. We're talking about structured interviews, checklists, rating scales, record reviews. And what do we mean by record review? Are we talking about like records, like, or what are we talking about here?
You can get records from like.
Go ahead, Andy. You go first this time.
Like from their school records, you can pull stuff from that. Like it gives you like their ISPs and things like that from high school information.
Yeah, we could pull ISPs, historic information from schools, any. What are you going to say, Brandon?
Like individualized, like learning plans, and they have an IEP or old BSPs when they were a kid or something.
Exactly right. We're going to pull these records. Maybe they had a psychological evaluation, and we're going to pull that. We're going to read through that to gather information, to learn where other people have taken things, see if they work, see if we could use some of those ideas in our behavior support plan. And guys, think about it. How nice is it to have that work done for you already? Right now you could pull for it and make it even better. That's nice, I think. So make sure that's happening. Or questionnaires to obtain information for those who are familiar with the person exhibiting the problem behavior. So who are we interviewing? Who are we talking to? Perhaps. Who? DSPs. Who else? Families. Yeah, absolutely the families. Of course the families. Who else?
The client.
The client themselves. Yeah, great. Guys, excellent. You guys are going to be doing this training next time. I'm not doing it anymore. You guys know all the answers. Good job. Great work. Yeah, so we're going to be interviewing the people that know them best. And guys, remember, it's very unreliable. It's very unreliable. A lot of times, even when I read ISPs, which is an indirect method, sometimes they read kind of scary. I don't know if you guys had this experience. Oh, this is going to be tough. It's going to be real difficult. I go in and meet the person, I love them. Love them, right? It's very unreliable, guys. Very unreliable. And I always remember that when I'm reading a scary ISP. Right? Very unreliable. Here's an example of two of the forms we may use. This is the, I think it's the QABF, right? It's the QABF, questions about behavior functioning. This is just a rating scale, as we mentioned in the previous slide. And this lets us, this is about public exposure, of course, and we are going to have the person we're interviewing rate the behavior, and it's going to help us give the function of behavior. So we use this as an indirect method to get some light onto why we think this behavior is happening. And then I included the functional behavior assessment interview form that we use when we go out for the first time with a new family to interview. And these are really open-ended questions that we're gathering a lot of information about the behaviors concern, a lot of medical, and it's not just about behaviors, guys. We collect on medical, sleep, diet. We are gathering the whole communication, their social skills, what they need in the environment to be successful. We are gathering information, so much information to put in this behavior support plan to make sure that our VIPs are as successful as possible. So these are just 2 examples. There's many, many more. Any questions about indirect assessments? Okay. Here's some other examples straight out of the Cooper book. Sorry for the crude nature of the picture, but this is right out of the Cooper book. Some other ideas, and it's on the table about other things like the FAST, the MARS, the MAS. The MAS is a really common one that I see a lot in the field too, the Motivation Assessment Scale. They're the same exact idea. They're all kind of rating scales. Direct assessments. We talked about this. Encompasses direct observation of behavior under naturally occurring conditions. So we're talking about ABC data. So when we are recording ABC data ourselves, that is direct. When we are collecting it from someone else, that's indirect. Continuous recording ABC narrative recording, and scatterplot recording, especially when we are recording this ourselves. This is when it's direct. And we are going out and we're recording upon behaviors. We are learning about behaviors through our own eyes. So what would be a good time to go and do this direct assessment?
Anytime.
Perhaps any time, but what time might we want to hone in on? Times when...
There's probably...
times when probably behaviors are most likely, right? And we could ask those questions. Hey, like when are problem behaviors most likely to happen? And they're like, hey, right before lunch, usually we have some problems. I'm gonna do my direct observation at that time because I want to see if behaviors are going to be occurring. And I want to see the behaviors for myself and collect data upon it.
The reason I said anytime is because, say in program it's 9 to 3, and then you may come towards the end of the day or the beginning of the day, like with the case that, like when you pop in, you might see behaviors that they're either amping up or behaviors that really don't happen or behaviors that are happening that they might be missing. So, and it's kind of like just like when they see them pop in like a surprise visit, and then they're kind of like, oh, they're not, and you can just see what's going on right there.
Yeah, I like that too.
That's what I was coming from.
I like that too. And like during that time, you're developing rapport as well. You're learning more about the VIP. You're getting to know the DSPs and the people around them. So this is the really important part of our work, the direct assessment. The more information we can gather, the better our work is going to be, or the better our behavior support plan is going to be, the better our outcome is going to be. And when we're teaching this plan, because the next part of this is teaching all the people that you've been interacting with the plan now, what is so important to have developed already? Yeah, rapport, a good relationship. Because how many people like to be told what to do from someone they have a bad relationship with? Doesn't really end too well most of the time, right? So that's so important with our work, that we're developing that good relationship. And we're tailoring our approach based on what those people are like, right?
This is so true. Reminds me of my one client, he's a big cursor, and he'll be cursing, and I want to redirect him from it. But then if I do, he'll totally shut down for the rest of the day. He might call his mom and go home. So you're right, it's tailored how I approach it.
Yeah, you have to put on a little show, right? You got to put on a show based on kind of how you need to teach other people how to do the behavior support plan. It's probably one of the hardest parts of our job, right? So, okay, direct assessments. Here's just some ideas. This is a scatter plot. And a lot of times I ask a bonus question here, guys. And I would really love if someone knew this answer. So we have a scatter plot here. But this also resembles the same exact recording method that we talk about in another training. So a scatter plot is another name for what type of recording? Look at what they do here. They're splitting the day into what?
Intervals.
Yes, into intervals. So right there, I'm narrowing it down very nicely. Yes! Yes! Partial interval recording. So in the scatter plot is just another way. Good job, Caroline. Excellent job. Excellent job. Excellent work. That's using your noggin. Yeah, equal interval recording, and this is a partial interval recording, right? Because what we're doing here in this scatter plot is we're going to mark an X if the behavior occurred at any part of the interval, right? And that's what we did here. And that's the same example as a partial interval. Why they call this a scatter plot is what we're determining here is when we should kind of go and do our direct assessment. When we should go. And in this case, when should we go? 9, yeah, between 9 and 10, 10:30-ish. Yeah, that's when problem behaviors are happening. But this is also an example of a partial interval recording form. So great job. Nice work. And then we have the ABC data sheet as well, and we're very familiar with that, antecedent behavior consequence. And we use this for problem behaviors, guys, the ABC data sheet. And it's so important. It's so important to use ongoingly, but extra important to use during this assessment period because it's going to give us rich, detailed information about the function of behaviors, right? It's going to give us, and where might we really look, any antecedents, of course, where would we really want to hone in on to learn the function of behaviors? Yeah, the consequence, because that's going to be if we see a consequence keeps occurring over and over again, what can we say about that consequence? It's reinforcing. That's an example of reinforcement, right? Okay, any questions about direct? And I am doing this with my own eyes. That's why it's direct. Any questions about direct assessment? So with this information, it's very reliable. So now I could start meeting with the BCBA and developing interventions. Right. The hypothesis statement. So this is when, after we kind of done this whole process, the indirect and direct, we are going to create a hypothesis statement about the function of the behavior. We are going to write why this behavior is happening. And we kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, of course, like we always do. Socially mediated or automatic. So what does that mean to you guys if we said a behavior is socially mediated? What does it mean? What do you think? Go ahead, Andy.
It's given through someone else. Another person has to deliver it.
Yeah, so the consequence is being delivered through someone else. Like attention, right? If I raise my hand and Andy calls on me, well, that consequence is probably reinforcing because I wanted to answer the question, but Andy had to call on me, so it's through someone else. The opposite would be an automatic. And what do we mean by automatic? Anyone else? Go ahead.
It's inside the person, it's individualized.
Or this is the socially mediated is being delivered through someone else. The consequence is being delivered through someone else. So automatic is what?
Through yourself.
Yeah, you deliver your own consequence, right? If it was really dark in here, and it was when I walked in this morning, now the sun, I had to do what? Turn the light switch on. When the light entered the room, I delivered that consequence myself. So now it's an automatically reinforced behavior. But if I ask Natalia to go shut off the light, it's too bright, socially mediated, right? So why is that important to know? Why would that be important for our treatment plan and our work?
Because you're going to design your strategies around that.
Yeah, it's like, socially mediated behaviors, we really can control when reinforcement's being delivered. And so much more effectively, not that effectively, but much more effectively. Then we have automatically reinforced behaviors. Well, this behavior could occur when they're alone, by themselves. They could just deliver the consequence over and over. Much more difficult to work on in automatically reinforced behaviors. And our interventions will change based on what we believe the function will be. Socially mediated or automatic. So we have socially mediated positive reinforcement. And remember, positive means that something's added to the environment as a consequence. When it's dark in here, I turn on the lights and the lights fill the room. Light is added to the environment. Positive reinforcement. So socially mediated positive reinforcement, give me an example. You guys give me an example of what that might look like.
Someone gives you food.
Someone gives you food. I like that consequence. That's a great consequence. Someone gives me food. Something's added to the environment, food, that causes me to do what? I walked right into that one. Yeah. Yeah, continue the behavior in the future, right? Whatever that behavior was to get there, right? Me asking for food, right? I go to the restaurant, I ask the waitress to bring me sushi. The waitress brings me sushi, or waiter. And now, when I'm in restaurants, I'm much more likely to ask the waiter or waitress for food again, right? Then we have an automatic negative reinforcement example. So now, what we mean by negative reinforcement is what? What was it?
Taking something away to increase the behavior.
Yeah, so taking away something, and usually we have an adversive antecedent, something we don't like is happening. We engage in a behavior, and now that adversive is removed. And it's reinforcing because we are likely to engage in that behavior again when that antecedent's in place. And I usually give an example here, but I want you guys to tell me first what you think an example would be for this. Yeah, that's the example I always give, right? An antecedent is a bug lands on your skin, and you can feel that sucker right away. And what behavior do you engage in? What was it? Yeah, scratching or swiping or whatever it is. And then what happens to that feeling? It's removed. So are you likely to engage in that behavior again when that bug lands on you? So it must be reinforcing, right? So think about negative reinforcement is reinforcement through what? Starts with an R as well. Reinforcement through, what was it? Close. I have some kind of problem going on and now I'm relief. It's reinforcement through relief, right? That's what negative reinforcement's all about. Reinforcement through relief. I always think about when you on Friday night, you go out, you have a couple drinks with the boys. You're eating the worst foods imaginable. Pizza, wings, right, Grace? This happens to me, and I come into work. I have some bad behaviors, you guys. And so I come into work, and I'm like, please give me that seltzer water. And I drink some seltzer water, and that is relieved. That feeling of being nauseous is relieved. I am likely to drink seltzer water again when I have that nausea, right? This is reinforcement through relief. And why is it automatic, though? We didn't hit on that. Why is it automatic?
You're doing it yourself.
Yeah, you're doing it yourself. You're swiping that bug away. You're drinking that seltzer yourself. But it could also be socially mediated. How could we change this to be socially mediated negative reinforcement?
You have an itchy back and you can't reach it and you make someone else.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. How nice is that? That's much better. Yeah, socially mediated negative reinforcement. Hey, could you scratch my back for me? Love it. So good. Yeah, you guys know what I'm putting down. Yeah, so these could be changed. We could have automatic positive reinforcement. We could have socially mediated negative reinforcement. It could be any mix match of these things. It's only reinforcing why? Because it's good. Is it reinforcing because it's good, you think? No. We don't use those kind of thinking in ABA. It's reinforcing why?
It's adding to.
It's what?
It's adding to.
Well, that's the positive part. But why do we say it's reinforcing?
Because you're getting the consequence that you want.
It's not about that either.
What am I missing? The behavior.
Yeah, the behavior keeps happening. That's why it's reinforcing, right? The behavior occurs again in the future. That is why it's reinforcing. That's what reinforcement is. That's the definition of reinforcement. And that's why I really hit home on this idea, because people come up with their own. Yesterday, I heard that reinforcement, the person was thinking about a building, reinforcing a building. And I'm like, well, kind of, but we're talking about reinforcing a behavior, making that behavior stronger in the future. That's what reinforcement's all about. Any questions about hypothesis statements? And again, we use this to develop our behavior support plan. Very important part. And then finally, we have baseline information. This is a crude graph. Of course, our graphs on Central Reach are much nicer than this. And our baseline graph, I'm a bad BCBA with this chart. This is bad. I need to write a note for me to fix this, someone please. Baseline graph. So we have a graph here, and this is kind of our equal interval line graph, and this is how we're going to determine our effectiveness working with our VIPs. So we have some behaviors we have hit, and they're different colors. I don't know why they might be Easter colors. I don't know why. Hitting, property destruction, and self-injury. And we have 3 different behaviors occurring, right? And this first part is the baseline phase, which I should have a label here, which I don't. This is the baseline phase. And then we have the intervention phase. And there should be a line here, and there's not. In the baseline phase, we recorded on 3 different behaviors, and we graphed them. And when we graph them, we could really see what's happening here, much clearer than we would have if it was in an ABC data recording sheet or if it was on a piece of paper. Now we could actually see the direction and demonstrate the effects of reinforcement. So we have 3 different behaviors here. We have and I made this purposefully like this. In our work, many times this doesn't happen like this. Most of the time it doesn't. We have a descending behavior, we have an ascending behavior, and we have a behavior that's staying the same. So why is this important to consider when we start to make our behavior support plan? What behaviors do you think I would hit home on in my behavior support plan? And what behavior might I stay away from? Work on both behaviors? And then get rid of one? Yes, you're so right. Because there's already one behavior that's showing a reduction by natural processes. So why would I mess with that? It's already going the right way. Why would I even touch this? It's already working out for you. Keep doing what you're doing. And I have 2 other behaviors. I have a behavior that's increasing and a behavior that's maintaining. What can I say about those behaviors? It's working for that person, yeah. Right? So those behaviors are becoming what? What are these examples of? What is this an example of? Yeah, reinforcement. It could be positive or negative. We're not sure. I mean, based on this example. But it's reinforcing. This is what reinforcement is. The behavior is increasing or the behavior is maintaining. So the consequence is leading to reinforcement. You're so right, Malcolm. So those are the behaviors that I would want to do what with? They're problem behaviors, of course. What do I want to do? Work on them. Develop a behavior support plan with them. Obviously, the reinforcement system went haywire a bit here. There's a problem behavior leading to reinforcement. And it could happen for a lot of different reasons that we uncovered through this FBA process. So we are going to come up with a behavior support plan to help treat these behaviors, the ones that are leading to reinforcement. This one that's showing a decrease, no need. No need to mess with that one. So without this baseline period, what would we be likely to do here? Work on all 3 like a dummy, right? Instead, we're going to make sure we're very analytic in our work and make sure that we only work on the behaviors that are having a problem here. So then I'm going to step over here. I'm like Vanna White. I don't know if you guys watch Wheel. I do. It's a great show. I'm going to draw a phase change line, and I'm going to write a behavior support plan, and I'm going to go out and teach everyone about the strategies in the behavior support plan. I'm going to draw a phase change line indicating there was a change in treatment that occurred. And then I'm going to continue to record on the same behaviors and look for a change in the behavior. Look to see if the behavior changed at all. And here we go. We have, well, let's work on this behavior first. This behavior, which is property obstruction, what happened here? It decreased. Great. That's what we're looking for. Great job. Perfect. Awesome work. But we have a problem here. What has happened here? Hitting has continued to what? Increase or became reinforced. So what should I be doing now? What should I be thinking about? Changing my intervention, right? And figuring out why that this behavior didn't have an impact. And there could be many reasons why. The most forefront reason in my mind could be this is occurring for a different function, perhaps. This is occurring for a different reason. And I need to make a change to my intervention to see if I could get this to start coming down. So I'm back to my FBA, guys. Right back into it. Figuring out what I missed, what I could do better. And then this behavior zeroed out, which is nice. Nice. We like goose eggs for these problem behaviors. Any questions about baseline information? Do you guys see how important it is? So when we're talking to you guys about graphs, we are wondering why learning trees aren't in central reach. How are you doing your work? How are you doing your work with no data collection? I don't know how. And you are not, and in your class, I don't know if they said this yet, but I was thinking about this last night. If you are not collecting data, you are not doing ABA. If you are not collecting data, you are not doing ABA. This is the cornerstone of our work. And it's not difficult. We're counting behaviors and putting them on a line graph. And we don't have any mathematical formulas or anything to consider, no statistics. We are looking to see if behaviors are going up or going down. That is all we are doing. Any questions about our equal interval line graph or baseline collection? No? Does it make sense? Is that the last slide? Okay, recap. Collect data on the ABCs of behavior and complete the FBA process. Determine the function of behavior and develop a behavior support plan based on the function. We have an FBA summary. This needs to be updated because we have a new one. We have an FBA summary report. This is our receipt of our FBA process. We're not going to, and then here are the references. Guys, look at the second reference here. The verbal behavior approach. Any questions about the FBA process? Thank you guys for your participation and excellent work.